Hello, my friends. Today we'll start with a comment from the White House about Trump's first success regarding Ukraine. Officials say that a rare earth metals deal will lead to peace in Ukraine. Last night, we once again saw why President Trump is our top deal maker. We've signed a historic agreement to create an investment fund for the reconstruction of the US and Ukraine. This is the first economic partnership aimed at Ukraine's rebuilding and long term success, and it will greatly benefit the United States. This partnership shows that the US is engaging economically and ensuring a free, peaceful, and sovereign future for Ukraine. The fund will receive 50% in royalties and other payments from natural resources projects in Ukraine. From the start, President Trump has been clear. He wants to stop the killing in this brutal war. This agreement shows the president's commitment to achieving a truly lasting peace. But there is one very small problem. Reports say the deal was signed so quickly that not everyone even knows what's in the final version. Looks like we might be in for some surprises. Still, ratification is already been discussed. Ukraine's parliament will ratify the resource agreement with the US within a week. All three signed agreements on mineral extraction are expected to be ratified in the next week, according to a senior White House official who spoke to a British news channel. And the US Treasury Secretary said that with this agreement, Trump essentially handed Zelensky a royal flush. We were making progress, but as always, these are Trump's deals. No one creates leverage like he does. No one closes deals like he does. There was a breakdown at the White House. We were supposed to sign that day. President Zelensky created a tense, explosive moment. Now it's President Trump, and that meeting in the Vatican really moved things forward. As President Trump told Zelensky in the Oval Office that day, you don't have the cards. Well, now President Trump gave him a royal flush. We'll see how things develop next. Share your thoughts in the comments. Meanwhile, Trump has also actively started weakening Iran's position. This is a warning. All purchases of Iranian oil and petrochemical products must stop immediately. Any country or person buying any amount of oil or petrochemical from Iran will face secondary sanctions, effective immediately. They will be banned from doing any business with the United States in any way, shape, or form. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And today, everyone is watching to see if similar sanctions will be applied to Russia. But clearly, Trump is starting to act decisively, and that's a good sign. Now, let's move on to the situation along the front line, starting with the Sumy direction. Here, the Russians are still clearing out the Kursk region and carrying out more than 20 assaults per day. However, the Ukrainian forces are holding their ground and not retreating. In the area near the village of Bilovody, there are no reports of new assaults. After advancing, the Russians are pulling in additional reserves for further attacks. Meanwhile, FPV drones continue to strike frontline areas actively, so the situation here remains tense. In the Belgrade direction, shelling of the Sumy region continues, but no new clashes have been reported. In the Kharkiv direction, shelling of the city of Kharkiv continues, but there have been no new Russian assaults along the front line. Fighting is ongoing in Vovchansk, although the front line there remains unchanged. In the Dvorichna direction, things are currently quiet, and the Ukrainian side hasn't confirmed any new advances. In the Kupiansk direction, Russian forces continue the assaults on Petropavlovka. To the south, attacks on Novoosinovo and Glushkivka are also ongoing. So far, they haven't managed to advance over the past 24 hours, but the assaults persist. In the Borova direction, Russian forces continue the assaults on Boguslavka and are pushing toward Novosergiyevka and Novoyegorivka. However, there have been no confirmed changes to the front line in this area so far. In the Liman direction, activity is extremely high with around 30 assaults in the past 24 hours. Russian troops are attacking Kolodezi, Zelena Dolina, Липове, Рідкодуб, and Новий Мир, while also attempting to break through toward Дружелюбівка. Despite the intensity, the front line remains unchanged and Ukraine hasn't confirmed any Russian advances. In the Siversk direction, Russian forces launched an attack on Verkhnyokamyansk but made no gains. The front line has remained unchanged over the past 24 hours. In the Chasiv Yar direction, fighting continues in the central part of the city. Despite Russian claims of progress, there is no confirmation of any success, and the battle for the city is ongoing. Further south, Russian troops are trying to push toward Bilahora, but there have been no changes reported in the past day. In the Toretsk direction, the Russians are still pulling in reserves for new assaults. Fighting is currently reported further south near Staramykolaivka, and they are attempting to break through along the highway toward Romanivka. They are also assaulting Kalinove, and there is a high volume of shelling. Unfortunately, the situation here is deteriorating. Why? I'll explain after we cover the Pokrovsk direction. In this direction, the Russians have already conducted over 8 assaults in a single day, indicating this is their main axis of attack. Assaults continue on Novoalexandrivka, they are pushing toward Novosergiyevka, storming Kotline, the outskirts of Pokrovsk, the area around Chunishine, Dachinske, Lesivka, the village of Promень, Миролюбівка, Малинівка, Єлизаветівка, and Nova Poltavka. There has also been a large amount of shelling, but today it's important to highlight one key detail. Recently, Russians claimed they had captured Tarasivka. By the time this video was being edited, the Ukrainian side confirmed that Russian forces had advanced 2 kilometers 800 meters into the Tarasivka area. However, unfortunately, the Ukrainian forces report that Russian progress may be significantly greater. Ukrainian soldiers reported last night that Russian forces had pushed hard past Tarasivka toward Novoolenivka. The Russians entered the southern part of Novoolenivka, cleared our homes, and began to dig in. Our guys had to abandon positions because drones with optical sights, precision drops, and artillery were hammering them non-stop. The Russians made a damn strong push. The advance was about 5 kilometers. Along the way, they destroyed one of our self-propelled artillery units, some armor, and a shelter. Those Russians rushed into the village on motorcycles, and our infantry couldn't handle the pressure and started to retreat. If they keep pushing like this through Novolenivka along the river and highway toward Yablonivka, just open the deep state map, draw a semicircle, and you'll see what we are looking at. It's Adolf's tactics at work, and they are not repeating Stalin's screw-ups, at least not yet. As you can see, the Ukrainian soldier confirms that Russian forces are already trying to entrench themselves on the outskirts of Novolenivka, which means the earlier Russian claims about taking Tarasivka are likely true. Here is what Russian military bloggers are saying. Assault units from the 33rd Motor Rifle Regiment of the 20th Guards Motor Rifle Division, who captured Tarasivka, are continuing to break through the front. They've entrenched themselves in Novolenivka, and assault troops from the elite 10th Guards Tank Regiment and the 242nd Motor Rifle Regiment have reached the outskirts of Alexandropol and are pushing further. Apparently, the 20th Guards Division is doing better than many reports on the internet suggest. Before breaking the front and delivering a flash report, it's crucial to secure the flanks and create the right conditions for the advance of the army's most allied force, the assault units. In addition, the Russians have released video footage confirming the attacks. From their statements, it's clear the Russians are moving very actively and successfully in the direction of Kostantinivka along the highway. If they manage to reach Yablonivka, it's obvious they could create another massive encirclement and then continue pushing toward the rear of Kostantinivka, leading to an assault on yet another large city. Everything points to this as the objective. Moreover, it's becoming clear that the Russians are simultaneously aiming to surround Pokrovsk, but not where the Ukrainian forces have long been expecting them and has established several defensive lines. Instead, they might attempt an encirclement further out. Uh, Possibly through the Shakhove area, moving through open fields to hit the rear of the Pokrovsk group. Overall, the situation is developing very badly. Let's hope that Drapati breaks their momentum and prevents them from achieving these objectives. Friends, what do you think about this? Be sure to share your thoughts in the comments. In the Kurakhove direction, the Russians continue to assault Kotlyarivka, Troitske, Konstantinopel, Bogatyr, and Odradny. There is also a high volume of shelling in this area, but the Russians have still been unable to make any gains. The front line hasn't changed over the past day, although the Russians keep claiming every day that they're getting closer to the village of Bogatyr. So far, Ukrainian forces are pushing them back and they've been unable to secure any positions. You could say that the gray zone, the area between the two front lines, is expanding there. In the Velyka Novosilka direction, the Russians are attempting to break through toward the village of Shevchenko and attacking Vilna Pole. Shelling continues, but as of now, there have been no changes in the past 24 hours. In the Zaporizhzhia direction, the Russians continue to assault Stepove, Lobkove, and Kamiansk. As we can see, the Russians have long claimed to have captured these villages, but in reality, fighting is still ongoing there, and there have been no changes to the front line over the past 24 hours. However, shelling of the city of Zaporizhzhia continues, resulting in casualties and injuries. In the Kherson direction, attacks on the islands are ongoing, and the shelling of the right bank of the Dnipro River hasn't stopped. Reports indicate that the Russians are trying to establish a foothold for a breakthrough onto the right bank. Clearly, they still hope to capture the city of Kherson, but we'll have to see how things unfold. Meanwhile, after the US and Ukraine signed a new agreement, the US has begun actively providing aid to Ukraine again, and photos have surfaced of an F 16 fighter jet being sent for parts. In this way, the US is gradually restoring its support for Ukraine, largely because Trump now essentially has to protect his own resources on Ukrainian soil. What do you think about this? Be sure to share your thoughts in the comments. And that's all from me. So please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.